Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. It is still your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we discuss a spectacular Cobra Yellow Breitling Avenger Seawolf, a beefy stainless steel dive watch. This watch is 45 millimeters in diameter, 18.5 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, 55.1 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll pop open this clamshell clasp and throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. The clasp, easier to open if you have more nails than I do. Remember, I manicure my nails for your viewing pleasure. This is a big watch, I'm not going to lie. It's too big for me. I think you need a 17 centimeter circumference wrist to wear this well. I'll zoom out so you can see it in proportion. Now, maybe you think 16 centimeters is sufficient to wear this. I'll show you down the barrel. I'll show you the cuff shot. I'll show you over the top. I do think my wrist needs to be just a little bit bigger. I could wear it, it would sit, but I think proportionally, 17 and up, game on. The bracelet, as you can see, is a Provessional III type, which is to say it has that diagonal orientation, but then it also has differentially sized links, with the centers being larger and then the flanking sides being a little bit smaller. Take a look. We have removable links fixed by screws, several of them on both sides of the clasp. And then inside the clasp, you can see we have 4 pairs of divots drilled. So you can use your strap tool to dismount the spring bar and fine-tune the fit in case you find yourself in between sizes with the removable links. We have a polished single-fold deployant, and it has wonderfully snappy tolerances. This one feels as though it's been sparsely worn and never refinished. And you can see the character lines everywhere are just super sharp to indicate that is in fact the case. Little stickers getting in my way, but the tolerances are outstanding. You can see Breitling's changed things up in the last couple of years. It has started using removable clamshell locks. There's a screw here, so I can take this part off if over time it gets worn down, and it can be replaced to restore the snappiness of the closure. One thing I do like about this watch is, as big as it is, the end links do not project beyond the case. So 55.1 is the true distance edge to edge. And you can pull the bracelet straight down out of the lugs. It doesn't have that fight and flare, that arcing curvature that you often find on watches that are integrated into the case band. And it's integrated here by an end link that matches the slope of the lug, but also the arc of the case, which is very slightly curved. Most of the case is satinated, and you can see that all the way around. We have a helium escape valve for saturation divers who may find helium intrudes into their watch when surfacing. As the interior pressure exceeds exterior pressure by 2 to 3 bar, this will automatically open up, release the helium, avoid displacing and blowing out your crystal and your case seals. We have 3 rows of knurling on this screw-down crown. The watch is an incredible 3,000 meters water resistant. You can see I have a hacking seconds function, so I can stop the seconds hand and set it to a reference time. I also have a quick set date, so I can rapidly cycle the date if I wish to do so. We have a couple of features that are distinctive of Breitling going on here. Now, this watch, I can tell you for a fact, was retailed in 2021. Taking a look at the inside of the bracelet, this is how you read bracelet codes. 47 means the 47th week. 19 means the year the case was made, or the bracelet was made, was 2019, and generally the case and the bracelet correspond very closely. So generally the week and year of manufacture would be between the lugs. You can't see it because there is a bracelet here, but that's how you'd read the manufacturing year of the case. The bezel. It has the signature chimneys. You can see the chimney is this little intermediate ring that sits between the rotating bezel and the crystal itself. It's a buffer so the one doesn't physically wrench the other. We also have these little crenellated towers that allow easy gripping of the bezel. This is a feature that started in 1983 on what was then the new chronomat, making it much easier to grip and turn the bezel when your hands might be wet, sweaty, or gloved. Another feature distinctive of Breitling bezels on most models, even the pilot's watches oftentimes, you can see that there are screws outboard. This is what's known as a captive bezel. So the screws have to be removed in order to remove the bezel. Unlike a Tag, a Rolex, or an Omega, it can't be snapped off by impact because it's not snapped on in the first place. It needs to be assembled and disassembled. More work for your watchmaker, but absolutely secure when it is on your wrist. You cannot knock this bezel off. So we've got these rider tabs, and you can see one at each quarter, a fully calibrated bezel, so you can read the individual minutes. We have an enormous bezel pearl. It is a 120-click bezel that has an excellent feel to it. It is refined, so it doesn't feel gritty. There is no undue resistance, but it also has enough definition so I can easily feel the individual clicks and enjoy the chunky mechanical qualities that it gives. It's a tactile pleasure. A huge bezel pearl against which to line up the minute hand for easy reading. I love dive bezels, whether I'm diving or not. You can see here all three hands are loomed, which is important on a diver because you need to know underwater, especially in the dark, whether your watch is actually running if you're using it as a dive timer. I find I prefer dive bezels over chronographs because they're easier to read. They don't have the downstream maintenance cost of a chronograph. And I rarely time anything that elapses more than 1 hour. So inboard of the bezel, the chimney, the rider tabs, we have the Cobra yellow dial. Breitling has a couple of different dial colors, volcanic black, intrepid orange. This is Cobra yellow. We have these wonderful matted Media Blast style texture gray hands. Then we have raised indices. They're actually part of the dial. They look like they might be applique. It's a really well-manufactured dial that these look like they're separate parts. They stand out quite nicely and they're easy to read. We have a little ring outboard, a flange, that can be used if you want to substitute that for a military time function. As long as you remember whether you're in AM or PM, you can use that flange to read military time. Of course, we have Breitling's wing logo. Now, underneath the case back, we have what Breitling calls caliber 17. It's an ETA 28242 architecture. Sometimes it's the Sellita identical equivalent, the SW200. Remember, the 2824 has been around so long, anyone can make it without a license. So Sellita does make an SW200, and Breitling has used the 2824 and the SW200 more or less interchangeably the last 2 years. Technically, they're identical. Bidirectional winding, 4 hertz beat rate, and a quick set stop seconds, 38-hour power reserve, 5-position adjustment. This movement is delivered in the highest spec available, which is COSC certified Swiss chronometer. If you love this big and burly sea dweller rival on a budget, reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.